Whether you call yourself an entrepreneur, a founder or a CEO is irrelevant. They are all just words to describe where the buck stops. And none of these titles come automatically equipped with tools or mindset to make it all smooth sailing either. In fact, few, if any, will experience smooth sailing in their business or their personal life. The skills and strengths that they or you possess and do bring to the table are what sparked and ignited the business originally. But as your organisation grows, many leaders, new and not so new, find themselves surrounded with increased responsibilities like growth trajectories, additional people, economic management, etc. That can be overwhelming. In fact, the data shows that 56% of Australian entrepreneurs are struggling with mental health, compared to 1 in 5 people in the broader population. Everybody needs help at one time or another. And why not the leadership or owners of an organisation, especially if it means you can maximise your business potential? Joining us today on SME TV is Vanessa, founder and CEO of Success HQ. She's going to share with us how her purpose-built business, people and culture programs can support entrepreneurs, leaders and their people. Welcome, Vanessa.
Thanks, Angela.
So the most interesting thing about what you do is the combination, the integrated combination of coaching and therapy.
Yes.
Now, I know that some people may find the word coaching and therapy hard to take on in a business context.
Yes.
But let me start with one of the things you describe is coaching moves you from here to there.
That's right.
Right? So that's outcome-driven goals.
That's right.
And then therapy deals with the stuff in between.
Yes.
Right? So what gets in the way of achieving outcomes?
That's right.
What is it about business owners that makes them think that their stuff doesn't impact their business when it must?
Yeah, well, it does. And I think that what happens for business owners is they get to certain points in their business growth, whether they're a startup or a scale-up, or even looking to exit. And there's this, they can see these reoccurring patterns in their businesses, whether that's their team or having plateauing at certain team members.
Yep.
And looking to find out, well, okay, what is it that keeps me stuck? So moving past just the coaching.
You can get stuck, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I had a deep think about this because I tried to put myself in the position of your clients.
Yes.
And I started to remember in my 30-year business history of what challenges I had, and they were with how I dealt with things. Whether it was the stress of the situation, how I dealt with people in the business or the customer. And I had some very unproud moments, as we all do.
Yes.
And then how I dealt with things after I left work for the day. And I realised how I didn't have enough skills at different parts of my leadership times to just do things better. And, you know, you say to people, don't bring your stuff to work, don't bring your personal life to work, but you do.
Yeah, absolutely.
You do, right?
Containment's important, but you do bring it to work.
You do, right. So you specialise in helping entrepreneurs and CEOs and their teams.
Yes.
Why have you chosen that field? Because you could have chosen, gone into any field.
Well, I've been in this field for 20 plus years. So what I found was that with working with burnout individuals, whether they're with organisations or, their own businesses,
Yep.
is getting to actually, what were some of those patterns and what was creating, this cycle of burnout. And then I was looking at, well, okay, if we could prevent this, then that would be a much better way forward.
Yes, okay, prevention would be nice.
Yes.
So is that just a matter of working through stuff with people?
Yeah, so from the business owner's perspective, like I tend to take a systems approach, like a family systems approach, and looking at, okay, so what is that person bringing into the business? So whether they're a CEO or they're a leader, they're bringing themselves and their histories and the way in which they've coped.
But see, when you say systems, that's very businessy.
Yeah.
So people would understand that.
Yes.
The business owner's like, okay, there's systems here. Right. Okay, so I'm more open to understanding that I might need this.
Absolutely.
Especially if it means that they're going to maximise their business, because some things that they're doing might be holding the business back, right?
Absolutely. And often, like one of the spaces that I work, very well in is with businesses that don't tend to have a people function in the business. And often we've got
Is that a polite way of saying
Well, we usually got the GM or even sometimes the founder trying to do the people element, yeah, and they don't have the people systems in place or have a sense of leadership capability because often they find themselves in those roles out of necessity.
Yeah, it's not their skill set originally,
No.
right? They're the inventor or the creator,
Absolutely.
the driver of the business.
Absolutely.
Zero people skills.
Yeah. So
I've been told that.
well,
Happens.
We need both though, and that's the whole point of being able to have, a complementary team, yeah, with a visionary.
Yep.
Yeah, and someone who knows how to get stuff done.
So there's fear, right? People don't realise that they can have a fear element in their business and that they can project that.
Absolutely.
And it's easy to get overwhelmed, let's face it, as a business owner, completely overwhelmed. Because there's no box that comes in that you take the lid off and you go, okay, that's how I'm going to deal with this.
Yeah, exactly.
So all of that, again, means you're robbing yourself of your own potential.
Yes.
And how real is burnout?
Oh, 100%. Like, the impact of burnout is severe and it's long lasting. So, which, circling back to what I was saying before about being able to create a preventative approach by looking at our people, our strengths, how we're developing our culture, making sure that we have really effective systems in place to maximise what people do well.
Okay, so you are invited into a business.
Yes.
And you integrate coaching and therapy.
That's right.
So how does that work? Because they're not, you integrate them, but they technically are two different people that do that?
Yes.
But in your case?
Yes, and that's actually what is unique about the way in which I approach the work that I do. Because often businesses will have a coach that comes in and helps them, moving from A to B, and often around a particular area. That might be sales, it might be capability at some level.
Streamlining, efficiencies.
Absolutely. So being able to integrate both has, that extra benefit of being able to work out, what's going on in the stuff in between. Because, people are often, really eager, to grow and be aware, and sometimes they're not as well, let's face it. So
we just push them a bit more.
Yeah. So, but being able to understand what's getting in their way and preventing them from, sort of either getting on board with a project or being able to execute, on the vision and the strategy of the business, is given that that's actually expressed well.
That's interesting. So let's focus on that because that kind of brings context as to why you would come into a business. So imagine that you've got a business leader who says, right, you know what, we're going to do this. It's a whole new way of doing things. You can get pushback from your people.
Oh, absolutely.
And you don't realise that that's stopping something from happening or the why.
Yep.
That's where you come in.
Yeah, and funny you say that because often that is the case because I'm working with entrepreneurs and founders that are often very strong visionaries and how things could and should be in the future, but don't tend to be able to unpack that well for their team. Yeah, and be able to help them to break that down into what's the executionable steps that they want to take to get from where they are, to where they could be.
Which means that the founder or the leader could actually end up either not having a great idea seen through or compromising on the idea.
Yes.
Or actually doubting themselves that it was a good idea since nobody else does.
Yeah.
So what a horrible thing to face. So you can come in and kind of clear the path a little bit more, work it all out, discover things along the way, fix it. Well,
yes, and in particular, a course that I'm launching at the moment, which is about team dynamics, which is exactly that. And it's based on Bruce Tuckman's work and looking at the 5 stages of team cohesion.
Let's talk about that. What are those stages?
Well, we have the first stage, which is forming, and that's essentially what it sounds like. How does a team come together? And then we have storming, which is the conflict phase. Ooh. I know. All relationships where 2 or more people...
Storming, yep. I like that.
Relationships where 2 or more people come together, like there is bound to be conflict,
If they don't do what I tell them, yes.
So what we need to do there is be able to, resolve those conflicts because a lot of businesses sadly get stuck in the storming phase and they don't resolve the conflicts. And as much as they might want to build a high-performance culture, they can't get there if they're stuck in the conflict phase.
So some organisations might think that's normal.
Yes, yes, unfortunately, because they're so familiar with that. Yeah, but it is sad because it means that they're not able to really enact on their vision, their purpose, and their team themselves actually don't have that full sense of satisfaction of what it is that they want to be getting out of their day.
Correct.
So it means nobody ends up happy.
So after I've formed and stormed,
we then go into norming. So
norming.
Norming. It's very much about normalising, what happens after we come out of those conflicts. Yeah, where we've been able to resolve that, the team's on board, they're on the same page.
Yay.
They're aligned to the vision.
Yep.
Yeah, and
they're doing exactly what I tell them. Yes.
Yes. And then everything starts to move forward into the next stage, which is then performing. Everybody wants a performing team.
Yes.
So
whether they know it or not.
Absolutely. So if we don't go through those initial foundational steps and make sure that everybody's flowing through that, then you can't get to performing.
Right. Yeah. No. Especially if you're stuck in storming.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. There's one more.
There's one more, and that is adjourning. So that's where we have those projects or the teams that actually, finish up what they're working on. We might have team members leave or new ones come in.
Right. Or you've got your RDO.
Yes.
Take a day off.
Yes.
Because you've done it and start again.
Exactly.
Okay.
We need to make sure, though, that's a cycle. We need to then come back and do the forming, and make sure whenever a team member leaves, because often there can be a grieving process that happens, when a team disbands or team members leave. And it's really important to be able to acknowledge that and have a sense of empathy and compassion, for your people.
Why are you looking at me?
Angela.
You've heard? No, but it's interesting because one person going, good or bad, changes things.
Absolutely, it changes the dynamic.
And a new person changes things.
That's right.
Especially if they've never experienced the forming.
Yes.
If they've always had storming somewhere else. I'm going to be talking about that all the time now, you know.
It's really surprising how, when I go into businesses, how much they actually don't know about the founding ideas or theories and models behind human development. And without our people, business doesn't happen.
The flow doesn't happen. Okay. So we know that you can go in, and we've talked about now some of the things that can occur, and that by rectifying these, smoothing out the edges, getting everyone into performing, norming and performing, it can make a difference to the business.
That makes a huge difference.
But now then, let's look at you. Right. So I know we've talked very briefly, talked about your programs, and you have programs that business people culture programs.
Yes.
What are these?
Okay. So I work from a strengths-based perspective because I'm a real fan of understanding, well, what do we do best? And focusing on that rather than trying to fix weaknesses.
Well, you come from a strengths perspective.
I do.
That was the most, I felt like I'd opened up a little bit when you said, no, it's about your strengths. And I'm like, that's right. Because it's negative to talk about your weaknesses or what you don't bring to the table.
Yeah, plus it's also actually a huge waste of cognitive energy.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's a waste of energy to pointing out all that other stuff. But it's interesting because you come from a strengths basis. Okay.
Yeah. So that doesn't mean we ignore weaknesses.
Yeah, I know. We'll work on that, But that's the important part, right? So that's what the programs are about.
Yeah, so they're based on that perspective, so looking at things through a strengths lens. But I also look at engagement, the stages of team dynamics, as well as what's happening with the individual. Because often, people we bring ourselves into our roles.
I'm an original.
Yes, absolutely you are. So when there are challenges that perhaps we have in our personal lives, and they can filter through into the workplace. So,
well, you get to the heart of what makes people tick.
Exactly.
And it's the headspace, right? It's all to do with the headspace.
And it's really important to make sure that we start from the top.
Yep.
Yeah, because the person who...
It's my fault. No, it is. But at the top, it's the... they throw that line away, right? Culture or people starts from the top down.
Well, it does.
It's true.
Yeah, but it's really important to take a top-down and a bottom-up approach as well.
Because it's not all about me, right?
No, it's not.
So let's talk about your digital coaching lounge.
Yes.
Because these are programs that people can do.
Yes.
You've got them available online.
Yes, I do.
So let's hear a little bit more about that, because this is accessible now for a wider range of people.
That's right. And that's actually why I created them, because working with some organisations that I'm currently working with, what I found was that the one-on-ones we were doing, whilst they were very effective, like there wasn't enough time to really convey the information and the skill development that they needed in that structure.
And some people need to hear it more than once.
Absolutely. Well, we all need to hear it more than once
Yeah,
that it really sticks.
Yeah.
So that's how that was born, because I really wanted to be more effective in the work that I was doing. Yep. So having a framework that's available online, I also offer support coaching with those programs as well, to make sure that all the team, as well as whoever is sitting in that role of head of people and culture, is on board. So everybody is actually at the same place, and also bringing in emerging leaders programs as well. So
that's because if you don't cultivate that,
absolutely,
you're really going to keep holding your business back.
Absolutely.
Because imagine if you had good, strong leadership at all the different levels in your business, you're going to have very high performance.
Yeah, it's super important.
And great execution.
Yes.
And more than one RDO day off for the boss.
Yes.
I can say that. Okay, just before we wrap it up, is it true that your idea of fun is to binge watch Frasier?
I love Frasier, yes.
You binge watch that. That's your idea of downtime, right?
Yeah, because he's funny.
Is it because you click? Because of the psychiatrist counselling therapy thing?
Yeah, I understand some of these, subtleties. Yeah, but I also sometimes I look at him and go, I think you're a little neurotic there, Frasier. So
there's drugs for that.
Yeah, I know. So, but it's a bit of a laugh.
So even you have a downtime?
Oh, absolutely. Downtime's super important.
Meditation?
Meditation. That's how I start my day. Meditation, journaling, and a little bit of yoga. Yeah. So it's a good way to ground the energy and make sure that I'm really clear about myself, where I am, my boundaries around my energy, because that's what I'm doing all day. I'm working with people and what's going on in their lives. So it's really important that I'm centred and available.
And we love that.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Angela.
To all our friends out there, I'm sure you've subscribed. And if you haven't, it's a bell. Click it. To the Piedmont Studio, thank you for making us look and sound good. To the SMEA Association, without you, this wouldn't be possible. Now, one more thing. If you have any comments, tips, tricks or questions, you know what to do. Send them to me. news@smea.org.au, and we're across all the socials. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Angela.